What's up, guys? So, I'm at home. I'm sick. Not feeling too good. And as a result, I'm a little angry. You know, when you get sick, you just get kind of like mad at the world. And like for me, when I'm at home, I'm just spending a lot of time on YouTube, Twitter, whatever, just sort of watching the conversations that are going down. And one conversation that I think is interesting, that I have an opinion about, is this whole thing about people writing their fucking lyrics. So let me just start out with the fact that I think it's great if people don't want to write their own lyrics. Like, I actually don't give a shit at all. I've been in conversations, just to put in perspective, with labels many times where we're talking about what an artist should do to help their career. What should this person do that will help get their career going in the right direction? And a lot of times the answer is get somebody to write their songs for them, because they're just not, maybe they're just not going to write a hit. I have nothing against that. I've sat there in meetings and said, yeah, I think you should put that guy in with a songwriter. I think he needs a hit. I don't think he's necessarily going to get it himself. I got nothing against people writing songs for other people. It happens all the time, and anybody who tells you otherwise is not really that deep in the rap game. But let's think about how these situations actually play out. Let's go back in time, a couple of years. You remember when Drizzy Drake, he got called out because somebody managed to get their hands on a reference track, and it then became obvious to everybody that there were at least chunks out of Drake's songs that we all love that he didn't write. And this was just, this is World War II in the rap world, because there are very, very few instances. We all know the rappers are writing songs for other rappers, but there have been very few instances in which we have really gotten to take a look behind the curtain and really hear like a reference track for an artist like Drake, who we all consider, previous to that, we all considered to be like a real rapper. Now, of course, there's been people throughout history like take, Dr. Dre. We all know that Jay-Z wrote Dr. Dre's verse for The Watcher, and I believe The Watcher 2. No big deal. Everybody understands that Dr. Dre is not really that guy who cares about lyricism so much that he's necessarily the pen behind all his hits. Everybody knows that Puffy had various people writing his songs over the years. This happens all the time. But when it happened to Drake, it was a really big deal. It was probably the biggest, most ridiculous scandal that Drake has ever been involved with his entire career, and it resulted in some of the best diss tracks that have been associated with Drake throughout his entire career. So let's just throw that out there, that throughout rap history, saying that somebody didn't write their own song has always been like one of the biggest, most cataclysmic accusations that you could throw at a rapper. It always has been like that. Now, at the same time, we've all kind of known, anybody who's willing to look behind the scenes a little bit, that the majority, I believe, the majority of female rappers throughout the history of rap music have not written their own stuff. Now, you could look at a whole lot of different reasons of why that might be the case. There's all kinds of systemic reasons of why young girls might not necessarily be so confident to go out and write their own raps. A lot of times when you look at women's careers, there are definitely some prominent female rappers who at some point, basically there was a guy who said, I want to write your songs for you, and that's just sort of how it goes. Now, that being said, of course, also there's plenty of female rappers who write their own stuff. Megan Thee Stallion, I was just listening to some stuff with her. She's very big on lyricism, and I have a huge amount of respect for that. I really like the fact that Megan Thee Stallion wants to be judged by the same standard that we judge everybody else. So now let's go and take a look at the whole City Girls situation. Now, City Girls, the one of them is locked up, but the one of them is still out here, and she's got some hit songs, and she's doing quite well for herself. And then Lil Yachty feels the need to come out and say that Act Up, which is basically like their biggest song, that he actually wrote at least one of the verses, and wrote all kinds of stuff that it's pretty hilarious to imagine Lil Yachty saying, because it's funny to imagine Lil Yachty rapping as a bad bitch. Anyway, this has prompted sort of an interesting reaction, because I don't think anybody is in denial about the fact that Lil Yachty writing a verse for a female rapper is no big deal. It's not really anything that stands out so much in the history of rap music. This kind of thing happens all the time. But what we now have is this weird thing where we have somebody like, take for instance Cardi B. She had this viral clip where she's kind of yelling at the camera, letting everybody out there know that in her opinion, well, she's not really presenting it as her opinion. She's basically just letting you know that you's a hoe, you's a hater, you's a bitch. Why? Because you presumably give a shit about the fact that City Girls didn't write that song for themselves. Now, I'm completely okay with Cardi B having that opinion. the thing that stands out a lot to me is just the aggression. You know, like where does that come from? That now things have changed so much that the traditional rules of hip hop, and I know I sound like a fucking idiot talking about the traditional rules of hip hop because it's 2019 and all of those rules went out the window. But the traditional rules of hip hop were very much that you did not get any respect unless you wrote your own raps, right? Like that was basically how it was going. And that extends even into recent memory because Drake's image as a hardcore rapper really took a hit when it came out that he didn't write even just a small part of his lyrics. So this is not something that has like faded into obscurity or anything. This is recent rap history. You can get dragged bad if you didn't write your own stuff. But now we got Cardi B yelling at the camera, screaming on us. And to her credit, the girl from the City Girls, I mean, she was posting some stuff on her Instagram story that basically made it clear that she feels the same way. Her attitude is, maybe some of y'all girls need writers. Fuck off. I made a bag. I'm all about a bag. I'm getting a bag. Fuck off. Which I respect. You know, I do respect that. But just where does the anger come from? Like, why is it so obvious to Cardi B and the City Girls that they should be, you know, perfectly happy to have their stuff written by men and that nobody should have any sort of judgment on this? Like, this seems like such a foregone conclusion to them now. And I just don't understand where that came from. Because to me, just a couple of years ago, we saw Drake have his career in a perilous situation. And of course, he like came out on top, and shout out to Meek Mill because obviously he's doing excellent for himself as well. But I mean, just a couple of years ago, this was such a controversial thing that it set the rap world ablaze. So, I mean, I guess the real question is like, are we judging female rappers by the same standard that we judge male rappers? What seems to be the case is that people like Cardi B and the City Girls feel like they deserve to be treated by different standards, whatever standards they feel like being treated by, which is fine because throughout the course of musical history, if people don't want to write their own raps, then they definitely don't have to write their own raps. But I mean, doesn't it just seem like they want to be held to a different standard? Because let's just throw out an example. Let's say that like tomorrow we all found out that A Boogie had never written a word. A Boogie never wrote a word. Trippie Redd never wrote a word. He had a ghostwriter the whole time. Maybe it was Alex, just writing everything for him. And for the record, those are not accurate scenarios that I know of at all. What do you think the reaction would be like? I think the reaction would be massive. I think Trippie Redd and A Boogie would not be having very good weeks if it came out that they weren't writing their own stuff. So, I mean, you know, props to Cardi B and City Girls for having so much confidence in themselves that they really don't give a fuck about what anybody's attitudes are about what they're doing. But I can't help but feel like this is sort of like a strange moment in hip hop where some new rules about how we're supposed to judge rappers seem to have been like passed by Judge Judy, aka Cardi B, and now we're all just supposed to just go along with them. At least in the prior generation, you know, like Lil' Kim and Foxy Brown, I don't believe that they were really like coming out and saying, hey, yeah, we don't write our own shit. And I mean, to somebody like Megan Thee Stallion, you know, she's not a hater. She's not going to come out and say like, oh, she's better than everybody else because she's writing her own stuff, or like Rico Nasty, she's writing her own stuff. You know, they don't want to be seen as anti-woman, so I really highly doubt that you're going to see any of the poppin' female artists kind of come out and be like, I write my own stuff, so I'm better than all y'all bitches. But you can't help but think that that might be at least sort of going through their head, because if you're not the one writing your stuff and you're being compared to everybody else, and they are writing their stuff, you know, they have that limitation of, you know, not having world-class songwriters to put their stuff together for them. Wouldn't you understand if somebody like Rico Nasty or Megan Thee Stallion was like, maybe you should not be judging me next to these other people. Maybe you shouldn't be holding us to the same standard because they're not writing their own stuff. Now, this is just my opinion, and I'm very, very interested to know what you guys think. And also, I just want to say that because I'm sick, I actually am on painkillers, so if I seem a little bit loopy, maybe that's what this is. I'm not going to lie. I feel a little loopy. It's been a weird couple of days. But hey, you know, that's just my opinion. I've been watching all this stuff blow up on social media. Would love to hear your thoughts down below in the comments. Adam22. I'm praying that I'm going to be able to get back on stream tomorrow night, but yeah, not looking so great. So, love you guys. Drop a comment down below. Much respect to all the women out there. I don't want anyone to. Somebody's gonna have to walk away from this video and think that I like hate women and that this is like an anti-female rapper thing, which is not at all. I'm actually hugely supportive of all the girls out there trying to do their thing. I just think it's a little weird how the goalposts seem to have shifted. Love y'all. Peace.